and lots of people didn't realise when their rubber gasket perished. Now, what happens is the rubber gasket is what stood between the lid being sealed on or not. So if the rubber gasket perished, what happened was when the lid was locked on and it came to pressure, the lid would actually explode off. So that's when you heard all the horror stories of pressure cooker lids exploding, and all the food would go everywhere and people got horrific burns. So that was the second thing that we did away with. We replaced the rubber gasket with silicone, like this. Silicone is everybody's new best friend, and I always add in the kitchen. So the silicone gasket just sits in here. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to insert it. It just sits in here. It does not perish like rubber does. Okay, so this provides the seal that seals your lid to the base of your 7-litre pot. Now, lots of you might not, and lots of your customers might think, well, I'm not going to use a pressure cooker every day of my life. But do you know what? They will want a 7-litre pot. That's what this is. This is just a 7-litre saucepan. So, and I've had customers who have rung me and said, oh my goodness, Karen, I never thought that I would use a pressure cooker as much as what you told me that I did. And I had one lady who rang me and said, guess what, my microwave blew up and I'm currently boiling the baby's bottles in the 7-litre saucepan, because we also developed a glass lid that you put on the base of the 7-litre pot. This now turns it into a 7-litre saucepan. So while you might not use it as a pressure cooker every single day of the week, you will need a big pot for some reason. When you're making spaghetti, you can put your spaghetti and drop it straight in the top, and you cook your spaghetti much more evenly in a big, thin pot like this is. Okay, so you'll use a 7-litre pot all the time. So that's why you need to have the glass lid, so you can use it as a 7-litre saucepan. Now, you can buy the glass lid by itself, retails for $49. You can buy all of our tools by themselves. They retail like this for $79, and you need to have them because they're going to keep all of your Como looking beautiful forever and ever and ever and ever, but also they're excellent to use for your pressure cooker, and you can actually get these free when you buy them, when you use them in your pressure cooker kit. So these retail for $79, this retails for $49, and your pressure cooker by itself retails for $229, or you can buy them in a kit, or we call it in a bundle, and every time I say bundle, that means you're going to save a bundle of money, and that means that you get it all together for $299, and that's the best way to buy your pressure cooker. The other thing that we have that's unique to us is what's inside. Now, lots of people have a slow cooker, and they're in love with their slow cooker. So if you think of this as a fast slow cooker, that's the best way to think about this. Slow cookers take this much time to cook, and the pressure cooker takes this much time to cook. But the slow cooker, the reason that we all bought a slow cooker a gazillion years ago was because you could put your whole piece of meat in here, and then when it's done, it all falls off the bone. But if you put a whole piece of meat in here, it's deep. So then you'd be in here trying to fish it out. Well, we help you by inserting in here a basket. Okay, it's very clever, so you can do things like put your whole chicken on here or your 6 lamb shanks on here, and when they're cooked, all of the meat falls off the bone. However, this is way better than a slow cooker because you can even put things like a silicone bowl on here, insert the bowl and the basket inside your pressure cooker, and you can cook a Christmas pudding in here, and your Christmas pudding will no longer take 7 hours boiled in a calico cloth on the stove. It'll take 35 minutes in a pressure cooker. So that's what you use your basket for. The other thing that we did inside was our pressure cooker is the only pressure cooker on the market that's totally coated inside. It's not stainless steel, therefore things don't stick. So I say to everybody, if you love the look of scrubbing pots, or if you love the look of your sink being full of pots for 3 days, don't buy my stuff because it won't give you the same look. It won't give you the same buzz, so don't buy my stuff. But if you don't like to cook, if you don't like to clean, rewind. If you don't like to clean, but like to cook or assemble food, then buy my stuff because you won't have to worry about cleaning it. It's just wiping it out because nothing ever sticks to it. All right, so that's the way that you want to talk to your customers, and the reason that they need to have one of our pressure cookers over and above a pressure cooker from somewhere else. You need to sell them on the features and the benefits of our pressure cooker, not just the way that they're going to eat the food out of it, because the food's going to taste great, but the food might taste great out of something else as well. But the food will taste great out of here, and then they'll be sold on the features and the benefits, because they're not going to be standing at a kitchen sink scrubbing the pot either. All right.
Can I just say, Karen, I've had a lot of customers saying to me recently, why should I buy this pressure cooker for $229 or the kit when I can get basically what is a cheap knockoff at Aldi's had them recently, Kmart's had them recently, and that's why you want to talk about the features and benefits of this pressure cooker as opposed to a pressure cooker.
Correct.
Because you don't want them going down to Kmart and buying a I think they were $49 or something like that, because they don't have the 10-year warranty that ours has. They don't have the basket. They don't have the non-stick system that we have.
And I also say, now everybody sitting here also has a catalogue with my name and phone number on it. And I actually joke with them that my phone rings hot between 6 and 7 o'clock at night, because that's usually when you have forgotten everything that we've said right now, and you've bought your pressure cooker because you love the food that we're about to cook out of it, and you've ordered your pressure cooker, and then you get your pressure cooker in about 3 to 5 to 7 days, and then you've forgotten everything that we've said because you might have had 5 to 7 glasses of wine, but you actually have my phone number. That's called customer service. You are allowed to ring me a gazillion trillion times, and I am happy to take your call a gazillion trillion times, and that's called backup service that you cannot get from a shop. And I will answer any question. No question is too silly. No question has been asked too many times. You can ring me, but don't do this. Karen, my pressure cooker is making this noise. My pressure cooker is doing this funny thing, and hold your phone over the steam, because that's not good for your phone. But you can ring me anytime you like and ask me a question about your pressure cooker, and I'm happy to answer it. And I'll always, and I've said this a lot, my husband says to me, your phone's ringing, it's about 6:15, clearly somebody is trying to cook in their pressure cooker. And that's fine, you're allowed to do that a lot, but that's what comes with buying our pressure cooker, because that's called my customer service to you, and I'll do it forever. So, but you'll only need to ask me maybe twice, maybe 3 times, depends on how much wine you have tonight. But that's fine, you can do that all the time. And often there will be a customer that says, oh yes, I'm guilty, I've done that, I've rung Karen at 6 o'clock, 5 past 6. Doesn't matter, you're allowed to do that. Yeah, and that's called customer service. You can't ring up Aldi's or Kmart at 6 o'clock when you get their pressure cooker home and you forget how to use it. It doesn't work. They don't care. I care.
They won't bring you back even if you leave a message.
No.
We will.
We will. Okay, so into our, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay, so into our pressure cooker, we are going to put some oil. Doesn't matter what kind of oil. The recipe says olive oil. It really doesn't matter. This actually is olive oil, but it doesn't matter. And we've got some bacon. Here's some I prepared earlier. This is just diced up bacon. Oh, here's my lovely assistant. Look at that. We have some mushrooms. Some onion. And some garlic. And just while that's heating up and having a lovely time together. We're going to, in our bag here, what we're going to do is put together some, when we're in the front, I've got our measuring cups. So of course you would be explaining about your measuring cups. You would be chopping the onion and, I'll just leave it all put together. You would be chopping your onion and your garlic to, in front of people. I've just done this to save some time. So we've got some plain flour here. So we're going to put a cup of plain flour. Thank you. And this just has to be rough because this is just to coat the beef in. Now, if you were doing this for gluten-free people, you could use gluten-free flour. I do this all the time with gluten-free flour and it works just fine. A little bit of salt. Oh, we've blown a fuse. That's not good. No, it's only that pressure. It's only that cooktop. It's okay. It's no problem. Okay, and a little bit of pepper. Okay, so we've got flour and salt and pepper, and then we're just going to throw our diced beef in here. Thank you. And you can also do this. I do beef stroganoff all the time, and the people who don't like red meat, I do chicken stroganoff, and it works the same. And chicken stroganoff is yum. So for people who don't like beef, just do it with, it works with chicken breast, but chicken thighs is are really good too. So just toss it around. Just want to coat your meat. Beautiful. Thank you. So you want to shake off your excess flour, and then you're just going to add your beef into here. I might need to plug this cooktop into somewhere else, or take something out here and. No, the cooktop into a different power point. That's it.
It's not the power point. It's the system.
So we're just shaking off the excess here and just marry it all in together. Beautiful. Okay. And then what we're going to do is basically put everything else in. So we have some tomato paste. Yeah. And of course this is Karen measurements. So we do 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And 1.5 cups of red wine or beef stock. So we have beef stock. Beautiful. 2 carrots that I've just peeled and chopped up like this. There you go. And some thyme, which we're just going to throw over Wilma.
Throw everywhere.
There you go.
It's all right. There's a bit down there.
No, we're just
And a bit
throwing
in there.
some more. I had actually picked all this off to save time before.
Of course.
But there you go. We'll just throw in some more. I told you I was no cook. I can only assemble. There we go. That'll do.
Mix.
Give it a stir.
There we go.
Okay, so
Happy
that's
campers?
it. That's it. That's all
Done.
we need to do. And then we'll just, because I'm a very messy assembler, we'll just clean off here. And then all we need to do, so it's quite a dense mixture. So we just lock our lid, and you would explain to everybody what means when you lock the lid on. And if you don't do this part, it's never going to come to pressure. So we need to turn it up a little bit. And you can only start timing it when his little button comes up. And if the button doesn't come up after a while, just jiggle it in here, okay? Give it a shake and give it a jiggle, because sometimes that little button can get stuck, and there's no problem with just taking the lid off if you think that really should have come to pressure by now. Just give it a jiggle and then it will come to pressure straight away. So, all right, in the meantime, what a mess you made, Wilma.
Oh no, I'm terrible.
Okay, so in the meantime, we're going to get on with our pizza scrolls. So I just need to figure out what I'm going to do over here with our other cooktop.
So while you're doing that, Karen, what are you finding? What product are people booking parties for to get for $25?
Well, pressure cooker is my number one selling product. But so it ranges between that. But I'm also selling lots of square roasters. So the square roaster has been a big hit because that's bounced back from the August specials. So we talked a lot with the August specials because, of course, that sold together with the digital timer as a special. But I kept it in my kit. No. So I kept it in my kit, and now people are choosing that as a really good special, and they're taking that for $25.
The square roasters are a really good thing at the moment too with Christmas in the not too distant future. Lots of people need extra big pots for cooking in.
Yes.
And so lots of people are loving the idea of the square roaster.
Yes.
And when you tell people it does exactly the same as the saute pan, only it's bigger.
Correct.
They go, oh.
So I think I always talk about it because at Christmas time we actually use it out on the barbecue and cook a turkey in it.
Yes.
But it will fit things like 2 roast chickens side by side. You can do a big square pizza in it. You can do a big lasagna in it. and then you say, and actually you can double the chocolate fudge brownie recipe in it and make twice as much. And people go, okay then. All right, so now we need to get on with our pizza swirls. So this is where you would talk about your silicone bowls. So into our silicone bowls, I'm just going to give my cup a bit of a rinse. This is basically a twist on your pizza in your saute pan recipe, just a bit more posh. All right. So in here we have 1.5 cups of self-raising flour into the bowl. And of course the same rule applies, you don't need to sift. Do you know why you don't need to sift anything anymore, Wilma?
No, I don't actually.
Because flour these days comes pre-sifted.
Oh,
Yes.
I always wondered that because I noticed we don't have a sifter in our range.
No, don't need
And lots of customers say to me, oh, you haven't sifted anything?
No,
And I say, no, don't need to.
don't need to anymore. Lots of stuff, flour comes pre-sifted, so you don't actually need to worry anymore.
Yeah, good thing, because that's another thing that you don't have to wash.
Correct. And it's also, we don't have time.
Yeah.
We build stuff for time poor people.
And it's something else you don't need in your kitchen.
Correct. So 1.5 cups of each of our flours.
Good-o.
Okay, now yeast comes in sachets, and it also comes in, you can buy it in a tube. Yes. But in the sachets like this.
I love the sachets because it's one sachet is 1 teaspoon basically.
Correct, it is. So that goes in like this. And yeast keeps forever. I've used yeast that expired in 1998 and it's still fine. Okay. Salt. A little bit of salt goes in here. And some honey. Exactly a teaspoon of honey we want.
Precisely.
Yep, that's exactly a teaspoon of honey. And we want some water. We want 1.5 cups. So this is just water out of your tap. So we want 1.5 cups. Just like that. And Wilma's going to stir that after I threw it all over it.
Food thrown at me.
I know, yeah, I'm good at that. I told you, I'm not a cook. I'm a food assembler. Tonight I'm a good chucker.
Absolutely. So you just want to, you don't want to overwork your dough. You just want to keep going until everything is combined together. One of the things I love about this recipe and the pizza recipe is that we don't have to knead and cover it and set it aside to rise, and then belt it up again and cover it and set it aside to rise.
No.
Just need to
Just bring it together, basically.
Bring it
That's all
together.
you're doing. Okay, so that's good. And then all you're going to do with that is we're going to tip it out onto the board. So, and then we talk about our beautiful chopping board. And
when you're doing this, you can show your spoon as well, and so see, nothing sticks to our silicone spoons either.
So we just put a little bit of flour on our board.
Which I should have put on my fingers before I touched the thing because it's going to stick all over me.
Okay, so then we're just going to tip the dough out there, and this is where you could then talk about your cupcake decorating kit, because we're going to use the rolling pin out of the cupcake decorating kit and just roll it out.
Roll it out.
Yep.
So, and we're just going to roll it out into a rectangle type arrangement. Doesn't have to be perfect because this is after all homemade, and that is part of the, I guess, appeal of homemade is in that it doesn't look like it's come from the shop.
Correct. And while Wilma's doing that, into the small bowl, I'm going to put tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, some barbecue sauce, about the same amount, and some Worcestershire sauce.
There we go, not quite rectangular but good enough.
And this is where we get to
Tuesday
use
night.
our little pastry brush. Give that a little bit of a mix. And this is kind of like your pizza, your homemade pizza sauce, I guess. There we go. Okay, so you could spread that.
Spread that.
Yep, spread it with your spoon,
Spoons.
spread it with that, yeah. Beautiful.
And you could play around with this as well, use different pizza bases. You can get the pre-made pizza sauces now, if you like to use those. They're really good, and you can, I'm just going to again
Open this and give it a wiggle.
because it's homemade, you can put on as much or as little as you like. If you like a lot of sauce, put a lot on. If you only like a little bit, just put a smidgen on.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Okay, so
Looking like a
then
bullet one.
it does look like just like a real one. Okay, and then we're going to put cheese and some bacon on here. So I cooked the bacon already. Okay, so you just break that up and sprinkle that on.
But you could use ham instead of bacon. You could use cabanossi if you wanted to. You could go vegetarian, not use any meat at all.
Some people are strange like
They
that.
are strange like that. But it's good to mention things like that at your parties, because if you've got people who are sitting there who are vegetarians,
Yes.
or who are lactose intolerant, eat gluten-free, whatever.
I did a complete vegetarian party on, I don't know, I lost track of days, Saturday or Sunday. And we did vegetarian risotto and apple crumble. And I booked parties because people didn't realise we could do vegetarian recipes.
So I talk about that at every single party and tell them that we have vegetarian recipes, we have gluten-free recipes, and we can adapt most of our recipes into any sort of interesting allergies or issues that you might have, so that you don't have people sitting there going, gee, I'd like to do that, but I don't eat meat or I'm gluten-free and I'm going to be a nuisance.
Yes.
So there we go.
Beautiful.
Does that look good?
That looks great.
Excellent. What's
Okay,
next?
so now we need to
Gotta roll
it up.
Okay. Could be a bit interesting given that it's not exactly square.
It's supposed to be rectangular. You did good.
So I might have over-toppinged it just a tad, but
And then you need your bread knife.
there we go. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Bread knife, which is this one. And we're going to, what, cut it into about 12 pieces, I think it says.
Yes.
So if we start, look how nicely that bread knife just cuts.
Beautiful.
So that's 6 apiece. Each one into 3. And this is where you really should be getting your guests up to come and do this, because if they use it and do it themselves, they're going to realise that you are not incredibly clever, that in fact it is the products and not us that are doing the wonderful job of making these meals. And all we do is bring the product.
And that's it.
There we go.
Beautiful. So then it says that we need to brush the edges with milk, but I don't think we need to actually do that
I
bit.
think we had to brush the other edge and I forgot and we rolled it up.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so then we need to put it in the saute pan. Okay. How about I pass this to you?
That would be good. And we're just going to, oh, I've got to tell you, these look rather good.
I think you've done
They look
fabulous effort.
just like the chocolate scroll cakes that you can get with cream in them.
Yeah, so we were talking about this today, and we think that, you know, you could swap the filling inside for dessert filling. You could do this with Nutella and cinnamon.
You could. There's no reason why you could not. It's essentially the same thing. And look at that, 12 fits beautifully in your saute
I hope
pan.
you can see that. That's how we look. So we're going to go on here. Yes, we have power. Okay.
How
Okay.
fairies have been about while we're cooking.
Cover with the vents closed on medium heat. Yes,
For
for
10
10 minutes. Beautiful. Where's my timer? Here we
There's
go.
your timer.
Okay, beautiful.
Now, I picked up a really good tip the other day, Karen, of
Yes.
the grapevine actually, and I can't remember who it was that put a post on there, but they actually have 2 timers,
Yes,
in
I
their
did see
kit.
that. Yes.
which I thought is a really good idea. And
Yes.
I've got some Chef's Club dollars sitting there because I was very clever and did something. What did I do? Oh, that's right, big birthday bash.
Oh, yes, yes.
So one of the things I'm going to get myself is another timer, because then you can use it to time each dish, because you're always doing 2 dishes.
Yes.
And I find I'm at parties and I use the timer for one and my phone for the other,
Oh,
or
yeah,
the
my
oven,
watch,
or
yes.
your watch, or the clock on the wall.
True.
And I thought, wouldn't it be so much better to have 2 timers
True.
and be using our products? So now you don't have to go out and race out and buy one straight away, but
Yes.
just, you know, a bit of food for thought a bit later on down the track.
Yes. Yes. So our pressure cooker is taking a little while to come to pressure, and that's because there isn't a lot of liquid in here. So the less amount of liquid there is, the longer it will take to come to pressure. So you can see that we've got steam coming out here. That's normal. That's supposed to happen. Sometimes I get people who ring me and say, there's a lot of steam coming out of the handle of my pressure cooker. That's supposed to happen. So don't sweat the small stuff. That is supposed to happen. But as I said, if you are concerned, there's no rules to say that you can't actually unlock your pressure cooker. Have a look at what's going on inside. Give it a bit of a shake. Give the lid a bit of a shake. Twirl your little knob here. Okay. Make sure that your little pressure cooker indicator button is moving about on the inside, because this should wiggle freely, and then lock it back on again. Okay. And make sure you lock it. All right. There's no rules to say that you can't do that if you're worried. And I tell customers who ring me up all the time on the phone to do that. But when there's not much liquid and it's very dense inside, that's why risotto comes to pressure very quickly, because there's a litre of stock in there. So risotto comes to pressure in like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, this one takes a bit longer.
I also tell people as well, it depends on their stove.
True.
So even when I'm making the risotto, I always tell them that the amount of time it takes to come up to pressure will vary depending on your stove, because
Yes.
stoves, like ovens, are all different.
Yes.
And depending on what you're actually cooking in there and the amount of liquid that's in it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
that people don't panic when they get home and go, oh, mine's not coming to pressure in 3 minutes like the risotto.
Yes, yes.
And they're doing something different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yes. So what else can you talk about, Wilma? What other themes have you been doing?
Well, one of my favourite little items that I've now pretty much put in my kit and tend to take with me a lot is this little 3.5 litre brazier.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see what you can do with this, I've got a lot of people going, oh my goodness, how cool is that?
Yes.
So your 3.5 litre brazier is basically a baby version of your saute pan.
Yeah.
So you can do virtually everything in here that you can do in a saute pan. You can do a pizza for one.
Yes.
So this is,
I do that all the time.
This is great for, people, where there's just a couple and they don't have kids, or older people. You get older people say, well, I don't have kids, I don't need all the cookware. Pizza for one in here, all your sauces, all your gravies, all those sorts of things in here. I use this whenever I'm doing lemon delicious puddings to make the lemon curd.
Or the lemon custard.
Or the lemon custard. Whenever we've got to do things like that. The other thing I also have is this little colander, because this comes separately.
Mm-hmm.
It fits in here. So if you're cooking and you need to drain or strain, pop that on the top, turn that over your sink, and there you go, you've strained your spaghetti or your pasta or whatever you're cooking in there as well. Again, a great size when there's just the two of you, or all the kids are out and you don't need the big pot. This is also a steamer.
Yes.
So that fits perfectly in there. Great size again to steam some veggies just for the two of you, or if you just need something extra steamed. This is a great size for steaming corn cobs in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love this pan and use it all the time. So I sell this as basically as a pair. They go together.
Yes.
So, and this is a great sale. This is $179.
Yes.
And this is
$49.99. Yep, so it's $50.
So this is equivalent to selling a saute pan.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had, especially if you've got lots of repeat offenders at parties, and lots of them have bought saute pans or bought pressure cookers, if you pop something like this in your kit, or your square roaster in your kit,
yes,
it gives all the repeat offenders something else to drool over.
Yes.
Because again, it's not the same as seeing it in the catalogue, when they actually see the size and see how it works. So great on. Think about your customers and who you've got coming along.
Yeah.
If you've sold them all saute pans, pop one of these other items in your kit.
Yeah. Yeah. That also goes really well with your silicone bowls, because you can strain over your silicone bowls.
You can.
Yeah, or your big one as well. So it's good for that too. So you can strain your pasta and things like that over your big silicone bowl.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's good for that too.
So yeah, so that's been one of my favourites lately because I have been doing a few repeat offenders, and so I've been trying to put something else in, and it doesn't take up a lot of extra room in the kit.
Yes, true.
Either.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you carry it, if you invert the lid like this,
yep,
that pot fits on the inside of your square roaster. But I put a tea towel or a pillowcase around the square roaster, so that sits in there, and then they don't scratch each other.
It will also fit inside your pressure cooker as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It does.
My pressure cooker's full of other stuff.
So, depending on what I've got in my kit, but it also does fit nicely in, but again, I put a pillowcase around it because I don't want to be scratching my pressure cooker.
Yes, yes.
So that's a really awesome item to take with you
to
do those extra bits that you need to do with recipes, and you can show it off and talk about it at the same time.
Yes. And just as a note, in September I've been drawing people's attention to, turn to the inside front cover of your catalogue. That's where our specials are. Because lots of people have been going along to parties expecting a specials flyer. And in September we don't have one. We have a special for hosts, being the fabulous $25, but we don't actually have a customer special. So I've been using the bundles as the special. And I have been selling bundles like they're going out of fashion. And if you can sell 2 or 3 bundles at every party, you will have $1,000 party average. So that's what you want to do. So I have been, as part of my spiel, if you like, I have been saying, so everyone, I want you to turn to the inside front cover of your catalogue, and I want to draw your attention to our specials. And that's where people have been looking, and I've been talking about the bundles as not so much bundles, although I do refer to them as that, but I refer to them as these are our specials. And people have been saying to me, so where do I write the specials down? And then I say to them, oh, they're in the red section of your order form. And so people have been buying bundles more than this month than what they have been on a regular month. And it's just, and then I talk about, so every time I say the word bundle, that means you're going to save a bundle because these are our specials. So it's a good thing to draw people's attention to. If you can sell bundles, imagine if you sold a pressure cooker kit and a baker's bundle at every party, that's $450 at every party. So that gives you, that's halfway towards a qualified party. Or nearly a qualified party every time. So that's a good thing. Okay, so we are about to turn over our pizza scrolls, and our beef bourguignon should be coming up to pressure in a minute because we're now dripping here. All right. So I have hosts who are going for woks, and there we go. There's your timer. All right. So now your recipe says invert your pizza scrolls onto a chopping board, but instead of doing that, to make it easier and to showcase off your tools that you need to sell with your pressure cooker and with all of your stuff, what we're going to do is just take the lid off. Just going to come over here, and what we do is get your small pair of tongs,
which is
right there. Okay, because then you're showcasing added extras. So what you can do is just grab hold of. It's much easier if you have the saute pan closer to you, I guess. And just flip them over.
Oh, they are looking yum.
And just turn it over. And this is pretty good because it shows everybody that nothing sticks to your saute pan. Right.
Smell good, Lee?
Okay, so then it says reduce the heat and cook for 10 minutes. I wonder if that means with the lid on or off. Who knows?
I don't know.
Let's do it with the lid off and see what
It
happens.
doesn't specifically say lid on, and I find usually the recipes do specifically say that.
Okay. Right, what I'm going to do with this is just take the lid off and I'm going to give it a stir. Because I can.
Why not?
As we do with. We've got some heat happening in here.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
Oh, it's starting to pop and jiggle now.
Should be. Oh. Oh, you said it?
I did.
Very good. That's what I have a lovely assistant for. It'll be cooked. How many people do it?
Might not be.
Mm.
Can we tell?
Okay. This is like a watch pot.
It is.
I
And there are 3 people watching it, and I
know.
think that's the problem.
That is the problem. Yes. It's very unusual. Always does this to you when you least expect it.
It never does it at home when you're on your own.
Never. That just goes to show it can happen at a party too. But the good thing will be it'll be cooked.
It will be cooked. It will be well and truly cooked.
This happened to me once when I was doing a party on a very old electric stove. And it just did not come to pressure until I pulled out my induction cooktop. And then it came to pressure like straight away. And I only did it for half the time and it was cooked. Because it had been cooking and cooking and cooking for so long. It was already cooked. So
Sometimes I find if you do have a very old electric stove, they can just not have enough heat to bring things to pressure.
Yeah. I mean, this has certainly got enough steam happening in it. I have no idea why my little button is not popping. It's very odd. No, it's supposed to do that. Nice, my little button is stuck. It's just very unusual.
Oh, bingo.
The button gets stuck. Okay, so we're only going to put him on now for 15 minutes.
Normally it's half an hour.
20 to 40 minutes.
But he's been cooking for a while, so.
Yeah, so we're going to do him for 15 minutes or less because he's been going and going and going. But sometimes, this is a new pressure cooker also, and I have this problem sometimes with my customers' new pressure cookers. I now only have 3 pressure cookers in my house, but this is a new one, and it is a first trial one, and sometimes with new pressure cookers, the little button just is very temperamental. So that could be the reason. I'm not making excuses, actually I am.
You are.
But yeah, so sometimes when you have a customer that rings you up and says my pressure cooker button just won't come up, I actually tell them to take it off and actually run it under hot water. And sometimes that will fix it. But this was just like fix it.
And you'll find it'll work perfectly every time.
Now it'll work, but once it's actually had its trial run, it'll be fine. But yeah, so anyway, the food will be good. So we'll figure it out. It's all good. But
something else you can tell your customers about pressure cookers as well is that cleaning. I'm talking about cleaning pressure cookers.
Cleaning pressure cookers. So don't put it in the dishwasher. And when you can take out your silicone seal, and you can wash that with hot soapy water. And if it ever smells, you can put it in the freezer overnight, and that can take the smell out of it. The other thing that you can do is boil your pressure cooker with hot water, and you can clean it also with, if it's got a smell in it, you can boil it on the stove with vinegar and bicarb soda, and that can also take a smell out of a pressure cooker. You won't get heavy smells like curry or things like that out of them completely, but it doesn't matter because the smell doesn't cross-contaminate and go into the other food. And I know this because I'm allergic to everything, and the food that I've cooked in the pressure cooker doesn't then cross-contaminate and go into my food. So this is my new pressure cooker for my house, but the good thing is everything that I've put in here I can't actually eat. So when I wash it out, it won't cross-contaminate and go into the food that I'm going to cook for myself. So it'll be absolutely fine. So it's all good. Don't forget to use your accessories and to talk about them. Things like pot grips, these things, they might only cost $15 a set, but if you have 10 people at your parties, and 5 of them, or 10 of them, add a set of pot grips to your party, that's $150 that you wouldn't normally have. And all you have to do is use them when you're taking your saute pan on and off your stove or in and out of your oven, and make sure you say to them, our pot grips go onto all of our handles, except of course your pressure cooker, and onto all of the lids of all of our pots. And I say, look, lots of my customers have more than one set. So make sure that you talk about the little things as well, but don't spend 20 minutes talking about them. You only need to talk about them as you're using them. And so just remember, that's an add-on sale. That's why McDonald's coined the phrase of, you know, do you want fries with that? Because if you have 10 people who add pot clips, pot grips to their party, that's an extra $150 that you wouldn't have. That can mean the difference for your host getting to a level. Okay, so that's a really important thing, and lots of people will just throw them onto their order. Okay, so that is the cue for your pizza scrolls. So I'm just going to take a couple out here so I can show you. So you can see what our pizza scroll looks like.
Yum. Oh.
There you go. So Wilma, you get to be our taste test bunny.
I can't taste test.
Okay. Well, Lee will get to be the taste test bunny. And I'm sure he will hate doing that.
Let's see if I can go and find it. He won't be too far away with food cooking.
No, he will not. So, really, really easy. And so these are our pizza scrolls. And so they were basically done and dusted in 20 minutes, which is the same amount of time as what it takes for you to do a saute pan pizza. So pretty easy. And then the best part about this is you get to take them all out and show everybody that, in fact, I will do it.
These would be great as an afternoon snack for the kids.
Yeah, afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea, kids' parties.
Correct. So when you take them out, you can then, super little suckers, you can then show everybody how easy the saute pan is to clean.
Because we didn't oil that, grease that, butter it, we didn't do anything to the saute pan before we put them in.
So then you just show everybody what it looks like at the end. And I just finished talking about hot clips and hot grips, not clips. I'm telling everybody how easy they are. And I always do this with my spatula because then everybody goes, so that's why I wouldn't put it in the dishwasher. Because it takes that amount of time to clean. Okay, so really, really easy and takes no time to do the dishes. So that's when I reiterate the fact that if you like to cook and or assemble food, but you don't necessarily like to clean, then you're allowed to buy my pots. But if you like to clean and scrub pots, then don't buy my pots because you won't get the same buzz out of your life. Okay, so really, really easy. So we're about 7 minutes away from our beef stroganoff, and then you'll be able to have some of that. And now, this is the other thing. Now, this has got nothing to do with our cooking or our assembly, but lots of people buy their stock in Tetra Pak boxes like this. This is a really handy-dandy way to buy your stock. Because then you'll always have it at the ready in your pantry. When it's sealed, it can last a long, long time in your pantry. Once it's opened, it only lasts 3 to 5 days in the fridge. But what we have is we sell fantastic silicone. Okay, so what you need to do with your stock is you decant your stock into your muffin trays like this. Then you freeze your stock in your muffin trays. Then when you want your stock, you simply pop out your stock into whatever it is that you're cooking, because you don't want to just put this in the fridge because it'll go off before you have a chance to use it. So you want to freeze your stock in your muffin trays, and then so this is the equivalent to half a cup, our 12-cup muffin trays. So this is equivalent to half a cup. Then we have mini muffin trays. They're equivalent to about a quarter of a cup. So we have also, and then we have bigger ones that go inside our wok. They're 1 cup. Funnily enough, they're called 1 cup muffins. So if you want a whole cup, freeze them in them. But there's all sorts of different bits of silicone, and you can freeze them in different ways. And because the silicone is so flexible, you can just pop it right out, and it can go straight into whatever dish it is that you're cooking at the time. And then your stock, you are not going to waste it after that. So much better way for you to keep stock. All right. Anything else to add, wonderful Wilma?
I think one of the reasons to people like our cooking parties is because we give lots of little tips like you just did with your stock. It's not necessarily about selling product.
Do the same thing with tomato paste.
Exactly. But so the more little tips that you can pick up and just keep in your mind and impart at parties, that's part of the reason why people have us there as well, because we're there about giving them just really good little tips. And one that I learned a long time ago, and Karen, you probably know this one, is about your self-raising flour.
Oh, yes.
So self-raising flour is basically plain flour with baking powder in it.
Yes.
And when you store it for a long time, if you're like me and you don't do a huge amount of baking, your baking powder actually floats down to the bottom.
Baking powder is heavier than flour.
So it's always a good idea, if you're using your self-raising flour, to just tip it up and down like that a couple of times, and that remixes the baking powder through the flour, and you get much nicer, fluffier cakes and whatever you're using your self-raising flour for.
And if you're cooking with gluten-free flour is fine. It's like chalk. So when you cook with that, just be really, really careful. Don't pour it into a bowl from a great height, because you'll end up looking like Michael Jackson.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because it just goes woof like a cloud of dust. So when you're pouring your gluten-free flour into a bowl, you need to make sure you have the cup right over the bowl and just pour it straight into the bowl like that. Otherwise it ends up with plumes of dust. So you just need to be a little bit careful like that, because it's really fine and chalky. You know, so just be a bit mindful of that, because the first time I did it, it just went woof, and I ended up with it all through my hair and everywhere. Interesting.
Yep. And there are lots of cooking sites that you can just Google if you want to find some tips that you can give to your customers and hosts. I've done this before, and just Google, you know, cooking tips or cooking ideas. You'll get 5 gazillion of them.
Yes.
And just pick out 2 or 3, use them at your parties, and try and get a new one each week and add it to your repertoire. Rather than, don't try and remember 20, because you'll forget them all. Just start out with, you know, 2 or 3, and once a week go, okay, new cooking tip, and just add it into your repertoire. It's like the new word of the day or something like that. It's your cooking tip of the day.
Yeah.
And people love that at your parties, because, you know, there are lots of us out there who aren't chefs and who aren't cooks, but everybody has self-raising flour, everybody has stock, so things you can do with them.
And people will come back and quote you.
They will.
And they'll go, oh, Karen, I used that tip, or, you know, that was a really good thing, and I don't throw out my stock anymore. And, you know, because people, I turn up to people's house and they buy those little boxes of stock because the recipe says 2 cups of stock. So they buy, you know, a box like this that's only half the size, but it's the same amount of money.
Yes.
And I go, why did you buy that? Oh, because the recipe says 2 cups of stock, and that's all I'll use it for. No, buy a litre, and then I'll teach you what to do with it after that. No. So it's just ridiculous. It's the same with herbs, you know, leftover herbs like this, you can freeze them in little containers. And then, you know, it's like garlic, buy it when it's cheap and chop it up and put it in the freezer.
I do that all the time. I buy the big things of garlic when they're cheap, and I will sit there for half an hour, peel it all into cloves in a container in the freezer, and then I've got fresh garlic whenever I need it.
Yes.
And it's already peeled and everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so we're all good now with our. We can turn off our
Beef
beef
bourguignon.
bourguignon. So then you need to tell people that there are several ways to release your pressure. You can leave it sit like this and it will come down all by itself, bless you. Or you can put it in the sink and run cold water on the lid and you'll actually see the water boil on the lid. Or you can release it via the steam vent, which is up here. So always turn it to 1 first, like this. Tell people this is not hot, because people go, oh my God, you're going to strip the paint off my walls, and then release it again. Okay, it frightens babies and animals, but it's not hot, it's not going to damage anything. It won't set off smoke detectors or anything like that. Perfectly fine. But that actually shows people the amount of pressure that's built up in your pressure cooker and why the pressure cookers of old were very dangerous. Okay, so that's why it's good to release it like that so that they can see the advantages of using a pressure cooker over a slow cooker. And some people will say to me, so what is the benefit of this over a slow cooker? And I say to them, look, I'm not here to rat out a slow cooker, but have you ever noticed that your slow cooker actually dries out the meat around the outside? And that's because it's not sealed. This is totally sealed on the inside. So, and that you can see that by the steam that's coming out. It's because it's totally sealed. And they go, oh yeah. And that's because, you know, I'm not there to stir it all day. Well, you don't have to with this. Once you put everything in, it's totally sealed. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to stop and stir it. This is also much more economical because the heat is only on for a short period of time. So you don't. It's not cooking all day. So your energy is less. You can only open the lid, as I demonstrated earlier on, when the little button drops down. Now is the only time you can open it up. This is the #1 safety feature. When that little button is up, you physically are unable to unlock the lid. So now we have our beef
bourguignon,
which is cooked, yes. And you could serve this with mash, rice, whatever you liked.
So if you plan ahead a little bit and you are doing this recipe, this is why I often take this with me.
Yes.
You can just ask your host, make sure she's got some rice on hand, and while all that's happening, just have a little bit of rice cooking away in this so you can add it to your beef bourguignon afterwards.
Bad when you wear glasses because you look in the pressure cooker and
happens to me all the time.
You get your glasses all fogged up. So, I'll just sum this up for my taste tester person, who I'm sure will be out here shortly. And that is our beef bourguignon, minus the red wine. Of course, true beef bourguignon has red wine, but this is our beef bourguignon minus red wine. It'll be very hot. So that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. Good luck for the rest of September. We look forward to your brag updates. Please feel free to email, call, text, carrier pigeon, do whatever you like. And tune in at our next hangout. Thank you very much, guys. Bye for now.